Hi, this is Tom Soane, and do you know what? I don't know how this is going to go. I'm just going to wing it because the government have released, I think it's in testing phase or beta phase at the moment, but they've released an online checker for tenants to settle disputes with landlords about what repairs are required, who's responsible for those repairs, and all of those types of things. And it's an online service, an online checker. So I thought, let's test it out. Let's see what it goes like, and let's do it live. Why not? So I'm gonna share my screen right now, and let's check this dispute online checker. This is on the government's website, by the way. I'm just gonna precede this by saying I've not looked at this. I've just seen the link. I've clicked the link. I've checked it out. As far as you can see on my screen here. So I'm just going to go through it step by step live, with the end goal being for landlords to be able to see what tenants have access to. And bearing in mind, your tenants are going to have access to this online checker, so it's worth you checking it out as well. Now, typical of governments, they don't make it easy to find. So the URL is at the top there, and it's literally check how to get repairs done in your rented home .form.service.justice.gov.uk. Brilliant. I'll tell you what, I'll put that in the comments. I'll give that a quick copy and stick it in the comments for everybody to check. But we'll go through this and do it live. There you go. That should be appearing in the comments right now. So here we go. So bear in mind, this is what your tenant is going to be able to do. So we're going to start it here. And I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm just going to go through it as if I was a tenant, and I'll pick out the general tenant problems. Are you renting your home in England or Wales? Yes. Loading, loading. Do you live in a private rented flat or house? Yes. Have you stopped paying your rent? I'm going to put no. But I guess if you put yes, it's going to tell me that I should carry on paying rent. Maybe I'll try that again in a bit. Remember, this is what your tenant is going to have access to. So if you're one of those landlords that likes to put all the repairs on the tenant, or doesn't like to get repairs done because you don't like spending money, then this is what your tenant will now have access to. And also, this is part of the government's overall plan to really tidy up the private rented sector. And on one hand, I'm a big supporter of that. I think that there are too many landlords out there that don't look after tenants, don't look after properties, and don't provide, well, it's a service, isn't it? What you are, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, is a business. And you've got to provide your customers, who are your tenants, with a good customer service, right? Anyway, at the same time, I also hate the fact that they're putting all these changes in place without actually talking to the landlords, so it seems. Anyway, back to it. What is the problem with your housing? So we've got a few options here. I'm not going to read each one, but I'm going to say that let's have a look. What's the most common one here? So it's normally gas, electricity, boiler, heating. These are quite common ones. So let's put a tick in there. See how this goes. So which of those ones? Let's say that it's the hot water that's gone off. Okay, brilliant. Has your health been affected by this problem? You know what? Let's go no. I'm going to put no because that's a common one, the most common one. And maybe I'll go through this a couple of times with a couple of different options. Have you told your landlord or letting agent? Yes, I have told them in person or on the phone. Perfect. Are you concerned you will be evicted for asking for repairs? What a question. So what that's basically saying is, for all the tenants who maybe have landlords that are a bit more aggressive about not doing repairs, or if you cause me problems, I'll kick you out, that sort of stuff. This is good. I like this. Are you concerned you will be evicted for asking for repairs? Let's put yes. See what that comes out with. Is your landlord or letting agent entering your home without notice? All right, let's go. No, most landlords don't, but some do. I know of some that do over the time. Is the problem urgent? Yes. I don't know how long this is, by the way. I've not done this. So here we go. Check your answers. Okay, I'm just going to assume that I got all those right. You said the problem was urgent. Emergency court orders. Right, here we go. You should contact your local council immediately if the problem is urgent. Okay, whether we agree with this or not is irrelevant here, because actually what it's saying is do something about it. It's urgent. And the first place they're going to call is the council. And why is that bad for you, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord? Well, the council are not on your side. The council now have much more serious agendas for things like the housing health and safety rating system, dodgy landlords, licensing, all of this legislation that the council are trying to enforce, because they can charge you a penalty, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, and now they get to keep that money. So if they charge you, they get to keep it. It's now a revenue stream for the council, which means if there's enough money in it, they're going to come after you. So it looks here that the first box on this government online tenant landlord dispute checker, the first box is telling them to contact the council. It's giving them a link to contact the council, and it's also suggesting emergency court orders. You could also consider applying for an emergency court order. However, you should seek professional legal advice before starting an application. You can get information on finding blah, 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 blah. Okay. The next box says your landlord should not evict you because you asked for repairs to be done. I agree. And you need to contact your landlord or letting agent in writing. Okay, so if you remember, I stated that I contacted the landlord by phone or in person. And this quite rightly is suggesting to the tenant that they need to put that requirement or request in writing, which is a definite thing. And in fact, I would probably say, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, that you should be doing the same the other way around. If you're going to contact your tenant for any reason, if you speak to them on the phone, back it up with an email, something in writing to say, we've had this conversation on the phone. Here is a summary of that conversation, or any requests or requirements, put them in writing so that there's a definite record of them. Know your rights and your landlord's responsibilities. Look, it's given these links here to help that tenant take the next stage of action. I'm going to go back through this in a second and change some of the answers to see what the other options are. Let's do a really serious one. That'll be good. Yeah, okay, so you can kind of see where that is and what that's doing. So if I now go, let's go back. If you can, there we go. All right, so I don't need to go back further than that. Do you live in a private rented house or flat? Yes. Have you stopped paying your rent? Let's see what it says. If they say yes, continue. You are advised to stop paying rent. Good on you, government. Good on you. Well done. Do you know what? There's nothing worse than when the tenant thinks they're right and the landlord thinks they're right, but the tenant holds a little bit of extra power because they can just stop paying rent. And whilst that might trigger some sort of eviction process or other process, it still means that Mr. and Mrs. Landlord don't have that income for that time until it's all sorted out. And I think that can be quite a serious problem for the landlord, especially if you're having to pay mortgage and insurance and all this sort of stuff. But the tenant technically is breaking their contract. Repairs are not part of the contract which states they have to pay rent. They can only stop paying rent if advised to by a judge in most situations. Anyway, I'm just going to go back and change that here. So I've not stopped paying rent. I'm a tenant here. I'm not going to stop paying rent. Let's test mice. Here we go. Oh, here we go. This is a common one. Damp or mold. How many landlords have had complaints from tenants about damp or mold? And then there's the argument of, is it a building caused problem, i.e. damp, or is it a tenant or living lifestyle caused problem, i.e. condensation? Now, a lot of tenants will think it's condensation, maybe because they don't fully understand what condensation is, especially if you're in flats. Condensation is ridiculously difficult to avoid if you live in a flat, unless you have certain measures in place. So let's go with damp or mold is growing inside. Let's check this one out. Has your health been affected by this problem? Let's go with, there we go. Let's go with yes, it's caused physical health problem, because a lot of tenants will, you know, if you've got serious mold, then it can get into your lungs. It can cause coughing and sometimes more serious. So let's go with that. Yes, I've told them in person. I'm just going to go with the fact that I've written it in an email or a letter or a text. Are you concerned you will be evicted for asking for repairs? Let's go with no. Is your landlord or letting agent entering your home without notice? Let's just go with no. Is the problem urgent? Well, look, in the tenant's eyes, it's always going to be urgent, isn't it? So definitely yes. Now, what do they say? Check your answers. My answers have been checked. Right. You said the problem had affected your health. Contact your local council. Okay, so that seems to be a bit of a trend here. If you're not able to continue living in your home because it's making you unwell, they may be able to help you arrange emergency housing. Make sure you keep sick notes and hospital reports. Quick warning, if the council provide emergency housing, guess who's going to pay for that? You, I expect. If the problem is your responsibility, it's going to be you. And remember, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, you're 99% of the time you are responsible for damp. And similarly, in a lot of cases, the tenant is responsible for condensation. So they've also said about emergency court orders again. That seems to be another common thing. Now, okay, I'm going to do one more. Let's see how we get on. Let's go back to, there it is. So let's have a look. Outside doors, walls, roof, mice, damp mold, faulty smoke detectors, faulty or missing appliances, plumbing and leaks. Another really common one, plumbing and leaks. Right. There is a leak inside. That's a common one, isn't it? Would you agree? I would have thought so. So we'll go through that one. It's not caused any mental health or physical health issues. Yes, I've told my landlord in a text. Are you concerned? No, that's fine. Is your landlord entering? No, that's fine. And is the problem urgent? Yeah, I think a leak is always going to be urgent. And then there's a reason for that. If you're a landlord who doesn't act quickly on leaks, maybe it's not a serious leak, so you're not taking action straight away. What happens, any water in a property is serious. I would argue that fire and water are probably the most serious risks to a property's health. Leaks just get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and it starts terrorizing the structure of your property, the woodwork, any plaster or anything like that, walls, brickwork, the lot. It just terrorizes it. Okay, I've checked my answers, honestly, and let's see what they say. Same again. Okay, so we can see a bit of a pattern here. So what does this mean to you, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord? Number one, if a tenant has access to a government portal that gives them the opportunity to check whose responsibility is this repair issue, who's going to do what, who's got to do what, and what are my rights? If that is in place right now for tenants to be able to access, then you can see what advice the government are giving to the tenants. Now, this is a bit of a warning now, and bear in mind, this is live. I haven't tested that system. That's the first time I've seen it as well, but it's now out there. So I wanted to do it live with you so you could all see it. But remember this, you want to avoid your tenant having any kind of motivation or reason to contact the council. I promise you that, because right now the council are, whether we agree with it or not, the council are enforcing the current legislation, the new legislation that's in place, and they are charging landlords left, right, and centre. Do you know, I think I read that the average penalty right now for landlords in the UK is £15,000. And that's just because the councils now see it as a revenue stream. Of course they do. And so they're setting up task forces and people and staff and teams to go and find these landlords that are not following current legislation. And so now you can see what advice they're giving to the landlords. You can do something about it. And by the way, I should probably put in here that the HHSRS, the Housing Health and Safety Rating System, is a massive part of what the council will be checking when they visit your property. And they can go and visit your property anytime. And they're not holding back. I've heard of quite a few landlords who have been penalised, who have been investigated. And all it is, they contact the tenant, or they have contact with the tenant, tenant makes a complaint, let council go around there, do an inspection, and then send the landlord, here's a list of all the things that you must do, and here's a penalty for your not complying. And again, whether we agree with it or not, doesn't matter. It's all about whether it's able to be done or not. That's probably the most important thing. So, look, I will help you if you need help. If you want to have a discovery call with me, just book it in. You can email me. It's tom@pinkstreet.co.uk. And what those discovery calls are for, quite simply, is for me to be able to try and answer your questions, give you the advice that you need as a landlord. And if I can help, I will. If I can't help, then I'll just point you in the direction of someone that can, because this is my business. This is what I've been doing for the last 20 odd years. So I will definitely help anybody that I possibly can. And that's about it. So look, I hope that helped. I don't know if it's going to help anybody. I just wanted to try and show you this system that's available to tenants. I think this system is going to evolve. But remember, if you want to book a discovery call with me to try and help out in your current situation, then just do it. I'm not going to, there's no other incentive for me other than to try and help out as many people as I can. If it gets me a few likes and a few comments and a few shares on my social media, awesome. If it gets me a few additional customers for my letting agencies, then brilliant. I'm very happy with that. But the most important thing is that as landlords, I'm a landlord myself. So as landlords, we need to look after each other. We need to make sure that if I learn something, I learned this today, I wanted to share it with everybody so that other landlords can learn it and other landlords can keep on the right side of legislation. And I hope everybody else will do that too. We need to make more of a landlord community, don't you think? Certainly where I am in Portsmouth, I made the Portsmouth Landlords Facebook group just to try and bring us landlords together so we can all try and share our knowledge, protect each other, help each other, and so on. So if you are a Portsmouth landlord, join the Portsmouth Landlords group on Facebook. I'll try and share as much information as I can, but that's it. So if you do want to book a discovery call, tom@pinkstreet.co.uk, or you can comment and I'll message you, or you can send me a message through Facebook or anywhere that you see me online, just comment or anything like that. That's right, James. That's what I took from it too. That's the golden point. It seems like everybody is driving the tenants to contact the council. Bad thing. Anyway, I will leave it there. Thank you very much. Don't forget to listen to the Anonymous Landlord podcast. I think I've done something like 160 episodes on there now. So there's quite a bit of content there, quite a bit of knowledge, quite a bit of information and advice for anybody who wants to be a landlord, anybody who wants to invest in property, grow a portfolio, all of those things. Right. Speak to you all later.